When most of us think about our careers, we often don't think we are in control, right? We feel like somebody else has to give us the opportunity, and that someone else who gave us the opportunity can also take it away. Or we think that working for a particular company or in a particular place defines our career, and so we build our careers around that, and very few of us actually think that we are in charge of our careers, or even can think of our careers like a CEO would think of the company he or she is leading. So in today's video, I'm going to give you 7 ways you can think of your career like a CEO would. Now, if you watched the video I did where I told my story of how I was laid off from my postdoc, how I felt very left behind in life and in my career, and ultimately how that story turned around, you will see that I shared some of those principles in that video. If you haven't watched that video, I think it's a fantastic video for you to watch after you watch this video. Even though I didn't know it at the time, I employed a lot of these principles I'm going to share with you, and so I know that they work and they're going to help your career. The first thing is to have a vision for your career, the same way a CEO has a vision for their company. All right. And what do I mean by a vision? Well, where do you want to see your career 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Where is your career going to be? If you're starting out as an individual contributor, that's somebody that's not in a managerial position, where do you want to be 5, 10 years from now? A lot of us will we will say, well, I wish I could be a manager or a leader of some sort, but that stuff doesn't just happen. If there's anything I hope you get from watching this channel, it's that nothing happens by chance. You have to be completely intentional and strategic about how you want your career to look like, and that starts with having a vision. So right now, right, it doesn't matter if you are in a PhD program or if you just finished or maybe you're a professor, it's always a good time to think about the future of what your career is going to look like. One of the questions people have asked me as a medical writer, somebody that works in medical communications, is, well, what's the career growth potential or trajectory in this career? That's a good question to ask yourself. So it's really important to ask yourself, what's the vision for my career? Do I want to stay here? Do I want to veer off into something else? Do I want to be in leadership? Do I want to be a manager? Do I actually even want it? Sometimes some people don't want to necessarily be leaders or managers, and that's okay too. But it's okay to kind of crystallize what that vision is. Now, of course, markets change, economies change, companies fold, but if you have that vision, then regardless of what's going on, you'll still be able to find your way because you kind of have that vision. Which brings me to my second point, right? So if you have a vision for your career laid out of where you want to go, now you begin to think of the tools you need in order to grow and in order to move towards that vision or that goal, right? So every good CEO has a vision, they have goals, and then they have a plan to reach that vision or that goal. And they have tools also to measure if they're getting closer and closer or further and further away from that vision or that goal. So it's really good for you to also have a growth strategy, right? A self-learning and self-assessment system that allows you to see, okay, am I moving towards my goal? Am I moving far away from my goal? Or am I stagnant right now? Good CEOs are also good communicators. Now, I have to share this story with you. So recently, the CEO of Thermo Fisher Scientific had sent out an email to all the employees, and I remember opening up that email and reading that email. He usually sends a quarterly email, and I think a lot of CEOs in a lot of companies do this. And I was reading that email, and I was just so impressed with just how he articulates everything in what he wrote, or how he articulated everything in that email. And it actually made me save that email. And it's like, wow, like I don't know if I'm ever going to be a CEO, a big CEO of such a big company, but just taking lessons from how he had communicated different points, his goals, his visions for what the company, he wants the company to look like, was just so inspiring for me that I saved that email as inspiration for my own communications. It's not only CEOs who have to know how to communicate well. In the video I did on 7 genius career skills to have, I talked about communication being a really important skill if you want to move ahead in your career, right? And I'm sharing that with you here too. Now, why is this important? Now, part of your job may be communication. I work in medical communications, so the communications is actually in the name of the job. So I have to communicate a lot. But also, how, are you communicating your needs with your boss, right? Are you communicating effectively? Are you communicating with people on your team effectively? Are you communicating with, maybe right now you're in a managerial position, are you communicating with the people that you manage effectively? I was watching a video last week, I think, and the guy was saying, I think it was Ed Milet, and he was talking about communication as a skill to build up. And before I clicked on that video, I was like, oh, I got communication down. I have a YouTube channel, and I remember one of the first things he said in the video was, if you ever come to a place where you think you have reached the pinnacle of your communication skills, that's how you know that you haven't. Thank you for injecting a dose of humility into me, right? So even though I have been doing YouTube videos, even though I work in medical communications, even though people have told me that I'm a good communicator, there's always more to learn on how to become better at communicating what you need. Communication could also be self-advocacy. This is also really important, right? And so learning how to do all these bits and pieces of communication, and you don't have to be a talkative, right? You don't have to be, communication doesn't also mean you have to be like talking all the time, right? Communication happens in so many ways. And so communication, though, is a great skill for you to have if you want to be the CEO of your own career. CEOs are constantly navigating the ups and downs of their company, right? Some of those ups and downs may come from themselves, from the company themselves, or the ups and downs may be coming from the economy, external factors, right? So there's so many things that we cannot control, and there's so many things that maybe we can control. But whatever the case is, life is full of ups and downs. And being able to be adaptable and navigate both the successes and the failures, I think is a really underrated life skill, because life is full of it. And yet we've watched people who have had immense success, and that success has destroyed them. And then we've seen people who have failed and have allowed the failure to define the rest of their lives, right? No judgment on either set of people, but being adaptable and being able, developing that skill that allows you to, see the North Star and keep on navigating towards that North Star, whether things go up or whether things go down, is really going to be important as the CEO of your career. Hey, can I ask a favor of you? If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe. And if you're enjoying this video already, hit that like button. It really helps tell YouTube that this video is valuable, and it should show it to more people who are watching it like you. Creating a personal brand. I know some of you are already tired of me talking about building a personal brand or creating a personal brand. Some people even get angry at me for using the word brand because it has some historical connotations. I get it. You can call it whatever you want to call it, reputation, your personal story, thought leadership, but here is the thing. It is well known, and there's actually an article from the Harvard Business Review, okay? If you don't believe me, there is a great article from Harvard Business Review that talks about building your personal brand and how to do that. And building your personal brand doesn't just have to do with, let's say, using a tool like LinkedIn, which is where I love to teach people how to build their personal brands, right? Your personal brand can also be built within your company, within the colleagues, within your industry, where people know you as the person for ABCD. They know that you're dependable. They know that you are somebody that works hard. They know that you're somebody that's no nonsense. They know that you're somebody not to cross, right? In a good way. So building your personal brand, every CEO and the CEOs that are the most successful often have some kind of personal brand that doesn't just promote their own career, which is a really important thing, but which also allows them to put the company in such a great light and want people to associate themselves with that company. Think of any brand that you like. You may think you don't like any brands, but think about, just look around your house right now. There are brands you specifically purchase. Some of them, they're commoditized, and so it's like, okay, yeah, toothpaste is one of them. But there are certain things, for instance, I can think of the recent Stanley Cup craze, right? Stanley Cup has built some kind of brand that makes people go crazy over their cups, which is kind of wild to me. But yes, we may criticize that all we want, but having that brand and that market strategy has led to them making over $700 million off of what? Cups. Okay? You as the CEO of your career should actively and intentionally build that personal brand that allows you to have that reputation that precedes you, so that before you even show up somewhere for an interview, for a job offer, for even extra job opportunities like speaking, collaborations, media appearances, you have that brand that precedes you and which allows people to want to relate with you. Taking risks. CEOs are taking risks all the time. And as a CEO of your career, I think it's okay to want to take some risks. Now, I'm a very risk-averse person, so I will say this with some kind of caveats, okay? I'm very risk-averse, and my husband is here, so maybe one day he can... Maybe one day we can bring him on, but I'm very risk averse and I don't like to take risks very much. But in 2019, when I was laid off from my postdoc and I was applying for jobs and not finding any jobs in academia, I made that risk to change paths altogether. That meant I was freelance writing. That meant that freelance writing would eventually lead to my first science writer job. It wasn't easy to want to divert into something else after almost a decade of doing something else. So that may be you. You may feel like right now you're stuck in your career, you don't know how you're going to move forward. Take a risk. I'm going to encourage you to take some kind of a risk. We never know how life is going to turn out. You might as well take the risk, right? And the thing about risks is that it can work out really, really well, or it may fail. But what you can definitely trust is you will learn something from taking that risk. I learned so much from, taking that risk of changing to medical communications and receiving rejection after rejection after rejection. But ultimately, it's led to a really beautiful place that I'm so happy to be in. Creating a legacy and impact. CEOs always want to leave some kind of legacy or impact behind. And it's okay if you want to also create some kind of legacy or impact with your career. It could look like, for instance, in my role as a medical communications professional, that looks like maybe writing several application notes and white papers and peer-reviewed papers that really put my team on the map. It could look like creating that video that allowed that other company to make a decision to buy some software or product that we make, right? And so I want to have that impact. One day when I'm no longer in this role, and people look back, I want people to say, wow, when G was in this role, she did A, B, C, D. And also beyond, those role-specific legacy impact that I want to leave, there's also the impact of the people around me. How do I want people to also remember me within the people that I worked with? I don't want to be remembered for being the jerk and the annoying person at work. I want people to come to work and they'll feel happy that G's working today. To be honest, this is a goal I have, right? I want people around me to feel like they're empowered and that they can talk to me even about, and this actually has happened. People come talk to me about life issues sometimes. And they know that that's safe. That's a safe space for them to exist. Now, maybe that's not for you and all you want to do is role specific. Okay, that's fine. I was just sharing some of what I like to think of as impact or legacy. But it's a really good place for you to think of that because you want to leave your mark, right? You want to leave your mark. I know a few months ago, there's a big push around quiet quitting and why people quiet quit, and I get it. But there's also something to be said about making an impact and leaving a positive legacy.